We're coming to you guys live here on the Hawk Zone after the Seahawks take care of the Cardinals yesterday to stay atop of first place in the NFC West. We forget about the Rams, man. They somehow beat Buffalo yesterday, so they're still in the mix. But yeah, we're coming to you on a Monday, so it's I know you guys are usually waiting for us on our usual Sunday post game, but I had to delay it. So we're coming to you Monday night here to break it all down for you guys. And if anybody's watching the show and you haven't subbed, go down, hit the sub button for us, and like the videos, share the videos, and it all helps support the channel. And we appreciate everybody that's been supporting. Yeah, we can't say enough. So we're going to break it all down for you guys, live Q&As, all that stuff on the other side.
Well, I'm the best corner in the game.
And it's right. What a run. Get off me.
DK.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's John Schneider with the Seattle Seahawks.
And Washington's got away. Leo Washington. Smith and Jimbo. The Seahawks are going to host the NFC Championship.
Every year, even if the Bell does, is it going to be another 9-8?
Players who've got to finish something.
They have to fix the offensive
Part of his
line.
success and part of
Ambition of being the LOB one again. That's trading DK Metcalf.
Play him aggressive.
This is the HawksZone Rundown with Ryan and Bryce.
Guys, you're tuned into the HawksZone Rundown live coming at you. Seahawks, another victory, this time in Arizona, beating the Cardinals 30-18. First drive, the Cards came down the field, scored, and up 7-zip. But man, after that, it was all Hawks. And Bryce, it was one of those games you and I talked just before we came on live tonight. That it was one of those games where you almost weren't worried about anything. It just felt like they were going to come in, take care of business. And after that even the first score, was like, okay, you know what, whatever. Kind of tweak some things out. We're awake now. And then things just started rolling, man. How impressed were you with that win yesterday? And just overall, the way this team is clicking, because it just felt like, we're going to get to the offensive side of the ball, but just an overall, assessment of yesterday and just this team in general. And, you and I talked about in the offseason, how's this team going to trend? And people forget about this sometimes. Like, this is a transition year, but man, we're leading the division. How's this team going to look late November into December? And man, if you and I sat here in the summer and was like, hey, this is how it's going to be, I think we'd be, really, really happy.
No, yeah, man. It was refreshing for the first time in a long time to feel like the Seahawks were like dominating their opponent. And we've seen the defense do that, which has been great. But to actually see the Seahawks dominate on offense in the trenches, we're talking about a situation where all we had been kind of going on and on about for the last this whole year, really, except for a couple outlying games, was, can we get this running game going? Can we get this running game going? We need this running game. It was one of my keys to the game when we talked about it. They need to run the football. It needs to be a weapon. And I don't know if somehow Ryan Grubb heard me or the football gods heard me, but Zach Charbonnet turning out 22 carries for 134 yards and 2 touchdowns, it was impressive and it was dominating. And it was fun to watch LeMaya and Abe Lucas pull on GT counters and just annihilate and pancake Cardinal players all over the field.
Yeah, man, you brought it up, so let's just talk about it right now, man. That run game without Ken Walker came alive. You talk about that offensive line. First of all, giving up no sacks. Just, a line that's coming together. LeMaya, another start for him. Probably feeling a little more comfortable. They're high on him. Abe Lucas continues to stay healthy on the field. But talk about the run game, man, because this is what we talk about. And I'll be the first to admit when we talked to Griff a few days back and we did our predictions, I really didn't have a lot of faith in the run game just because of what you've been seeing all year and a combination of Grubb and look, Ken Walker's a great player, but you saw downhill running yesterday. Just like hit it and go. And we've had our critiques with Charbonnet, but the way the line just, opened it up and he would just hit it and go, and obviously some big explosive runs. And man, you got to talk about Kenny Mack. I mean, I know he was the second guy in line, but every time he touched the ball, every time they gave him the ball, good things happen. He just hit it, and I like him. You and I talking about him, like, man, when are we gonna see him? Like Ken Walker brings a lot of good things to the table, but they didn't miss a beat yesterday, and that's not to say anything. But hey, maybe when you could say, hey, there's depth here, and they took advantage of it. So, and that's good news, because if Ken's got to rest another week, you're more than confident now what you saw with Charbonnet can be your leading back. Obviously, the way he ran, I mean, big time numbers, dude. And he did it both in the receiving game too. Not only the run game had, I think I can't pull the stats.
7 catches for 59 yards.
59 yards, right? So, just an all around huge game for him, and you feel good for Zach, because was getting a lot of criticism with how he was, coming in his second year. And but yeah, you got to feel real happy. I mean, what's your thoughts, man? The way they ran the ball, just that downhill hard running. And I think there was a stat too. I think he had over 90 yards after contact.
Yeah.
So what you and I talked about, right? As far as like not just your first touch of the ankles, you're down. That's what we like to see, and that's Seahawks running the football style.
No, exactly. And what it is interesting is, like, and we'll get on to it later today, but I went in and dug into PFF on the Seahawks run blocking, because something was standing out to me on the game when I was watching, when I've gone back and watched the all 22. And it was something that me and Griff had kind of got into a conversation a little bit on our previous show about. And what it was, what is Seattle's identity in the run scheme? Are they a zone heavy team, or are they going to be a gap power heavy team? And the one thing I had started to notice with the successful run Seattle was having, even prior to this game, and then finally exploding, was a lot of it was gap power counter duo runs, where they're pulling two, players, they're running downhill, they're hitting the line straight ahead. And, a lot of that was generally with Charbonnet in a lot of the situations. Sometimes it was K9, but a lot of the time it was with Charbonnet in the weeks prior. In this game, they were almost 70% gap and power running to zone, which tells you right there the difference for this offensive line, what they're better at, like letting LeMaya, letting Abe Lucas, Lincoln Tomlinson, all these guys, Olu, just go and find work and clean it up, instead of trying to get them to be athletic and getting, angles and stuff. They're still getting angles and gap power, but you're running at the teeth of the defense and just smashing them away. And, you look at Charbonnet's 51-yard run, it was a gap tackle pull. And it was just the left tackle, the left guard, and the center all step down. And these two guys come around, and LeMaya pancake the D end. Lucas climbs to the second level. He tries to find some work. There isn't anybody really there for Lucas. I think it was, I'm not sure who came down. I think it was a safety came down and kind of just ducked out of the way. And then Charbonnet was off to the races. And the thing for me that I think, when I look at Charbonnet run, and yes, he doesn't have the breakaway speed. He almost got caught on his 51-yard run. Like, if that had been a 60-yard run, we're talking he might have gotten tackled maybe at the 5-yard line. But he's much better at pacing his blocking. And so what I mean by that is, when the guards pull, when the tackles pull, when he has blocking on in front of him, he sets it up a lot better. Where K9, and this is not a knock saying I don't love K9. I love K9. But K9 has a tendency to outrun his blocking, and sometimes doesn't see the hole that's right in front of him, and he'll kind of bounce it down the line and try and get outside and hit the 70-yard run down the sideline. And I think teams have started to figure that out. And so for them, they kind of just, when K9's in there, bottleneck it all up from him bouncing, and they really work on keeping contained on the edges with K9. Kenny Mack comes in and he played more than I thought he was going to play. Like, the first time I think K9 was out, or Walker was out, Charbonnet, like 90% of the touches, he barely got any. But he comes in, first run, 9 yards.
Yeah.
And he's, again, like, for his smaller size, I guess you could say, in theory, he's not exactly what you think. He runs hard nose, like he's coming at you. So it was refreshing to see that attack, and it was refreshing to see our O-line play the way. And like, there was one, Brock Hewer talked about it today on the 710 show, but there was one play where the like on-field mics caught Lamea, and all you could hear was like this angry growling and grunting. And it's like, I have waited so long to hear a Seahawks lineman do that. Like, I truly think the Seahawks may have found their right guard. I truly think Lamea may be the answer at right guard, and maybe we're having a conversation about Christian Haynes moving over to the left side, because him and Lucas are just both nasty, and that's what you want. You want nasty guys, and if you got two of them on your line, let them go. Let them go to work and just keep road grinding down the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's the thing. Yeah, you want that nasty. Guys, get your comments in here, man. We're live. We want to hear from you guys. What did you guys think of the run game? Was it refreshing? What'd you think with K9 out? How'd you like Kenny Mack? Want to hear what you guys think, because we want to get to as many questions as we can. But talk about Ryan Grubb, man. I mean, there's no question about it. Like, there's chatter in the media. Guy, we talked about it last week. Like, these guys, as much as you think they turn everything off, they hear things, and especially when now the media is talking about it and stuff like that. Some of the biggest things that stood out to me was, there was checkdowns available, right? They opened that up, and then a little more creativity when they brought that heavy set package in there. I think Sharps had a couple of runs, one for 3 or 4, got him down to 1. And then DK and JSN, they're out, they're sitting on the sideline. Here come the heavy package, and you're thinking, oh no, like here we go again. Just give it to Sharps and run it up the gut, and then all of a sudden, and then they're doing the pre-snap movement and everything, and then they jet sweep, and I was like, man, and then a great cut by Sharps, to get in the end zone. But that's what we want to see. That's what we wanted to see, and it was like finally things started clicking. And I don't know, to me, it seems like a combination of like you said, the O-line, and maybe Lamea could be the answer. And so you have him at guard and Lucas, and they're working together. They're getting that chemistry going. Olu's fitting in the mix. And we're not sitting here saying, hey, all the answers are solved at the offensive line. They could come back. I mean, it's a work in progress. But to see that combo, and then with Ryan Grubb able to get a little creative, it was good to see, because we a lot of people think, and we've talked about, like, he's not really auditioning, but it's like even Mike McDonald say, well, is this the culture that I'm looking for on offense with his style? And if the next 5 games and into the playoffs, if they make it, if he shows what he's kind of showing, it's like, okay, this guy could be around for a long time. So it was awesome to see some of the different things. And because the checkdowns were there, Gino went to him. He had time, no sacks. Scott Huff getting a game ball, right? That was a testament to the offensive line, obviously, too. So impressive, man, because you started losing hope a little bit in the offense, and you just kind of like, hey, defense is balling, right? So maybe we figure things out in the offseason, whatever. But I'd love to see that. That's what I'd love to see. Those two things really stuck out for me.
What it was, and this is the thing that I liked, is there was a lot of variety from Ryan Grubb. There was a lot of, we're gonna smash you in the mouth, and they were able to set things up off of that. Arizona's a zone heavy team, and they don't bring a lot of pressure. That's not in their defense's forte this year. They're not a high pressure rate team. So what I liked is you saw Grubb design some things for it where it was like, I'm literally designing this for the Arizona Cardinals game. And this kind of goes back, and we may get into this with more viewer comments and stuff, but it goes back to kind of that interview I had with Greg Bell, where Greg Bell mentioned, you and me talked about it on, off during the game when we were texting back and forth in our chat. And it was like, Grubb seeing the Cardinals a second time, the offense looked so much smoother. He knew what they were going to throw at certain situations. Like right off that or that Kobe Bryant interception, we come back with that shot to JSM, which he designed such a nice smash concept with Lockett, Fant coming across and running the flat, and getting JSN on a safety, which was just a mismatch from day one. But it's things like that where he sees a team now a second time, and he already knows what's in his bag of, like, these are my go-to plays and I know how to do these. And Gino hitting the checkdowns. Gino, this is the Gino I want to see every week. Yeah, okay, he didn't have 3 touchdown passes, but the biggest key was Gino was an 80% completion thrower in this game. He played within the system, and he took what they gave him. They're playing zone, cool. check down to Charbonnet. Cool. They're doing like 7 catches on 7 targets for Charbonnet for basically 60 yards. Like, that is understanding what that defense, and he still got DK involved. He still got JSN involved. It was refreshing to see, and it's a very, very complimentary way to play with this defense. Let this defense go set the tone. Offense come on, capitalize. The minute we went bang, bang, 2 touchdowns in a row on those 2 picks, I was like, this is over. Like, you could see it in Kyler Murray's body language. He was done. He was like,
I don't even think he knew what hit him, and I think I called it too when Ernest, I was like, take a shot, man. And when they got the ball back, take a shot. And they did. And I think it was like, that just was a sign of a confident team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can do what we want out here on both sides of the ball today. You know what? Ernest just made a hell of a play. You know what? Like you said, you talked about how Grubb lined up that play and got JSN on the safety. It was just like, I know exactly what I want to do. You guys aren't going to stop us. We're going to take a shot right here, make you pay for the pick. And then, what was it? Derek Hall coming around the edge. Man, did he look nasty yesterday. And
might
in
have been
Kyler's
best game, dude.
It was great. And then in Kyler's grill, right? Just this defense talking smack, feeling, again, there'll never be another Legion of Boom, but this is the closest thing where you just, the energy and the swagger and the meanness and just guys all like, this is going to, this thing could get nasty and it's just going to get better. You know what it's like when something's a real deal, and you're not jumping ahead, but you're seeing the makings of something really, really good. And dude, I'm telling you, man, and just God, I mean, I know we criticize Schneider, but that Ernest Jones pick, dude, like, I mean, he made a splash last off season with Leonard Williams, and now the guy's he's a man on a mission. But Ernest Jones is like, that's got to be maybe his best mid-season trade, because the only difference with Leonard was like, we made the move and then the team just kind of, the defense wasn't very good. So we kind of, you know what I mean? So we just kind of were like, okay, why did you make that move? But this move was a move where it's like, no, Mike needs certain guys in his system, and these linebackers weren't working out. And man, he is sure hit it with Ernest. And just, it seems like this culture all of a sudden just kind of needed that extra dude to just get this thing going.
No, 100%. Ernest Jones, he made such an impact, and like his interception was so refreshing because it reminded me of like prime Bobby in the fact that he understood exactly what they were doing on offense. And if you watch him, he drops.
He's
and I know
smart.
Griff put this out, but he drops opposite of where he knows that, Kyler's going to throw. And so he drops to what Kyler thinks, which he's going to carry that third receiver up the field with the nickel on the inside there. I think it was Witherspoon. He's going to carry the two of them. Are going to tag team. And then as soon as he sees Kyler come off it, he knew exactly what concept was running backside and just flipped and picked it. That is so refreshing to see a linebacker make that play. Jerome Baker's not making that play. Tyrell Dodson's not making that play. Oh, I think I just lost my camera. Hold on there.
I still hear you. But and that's the other thing, as far as Mike making his mark, it's refreshing to see, and you don't want guys losing their jobs, but look, this is the NFL, man. And if you're not cutting it and you're not doing your job, I mean, Mike's shown and John's shown that you're quick to get shown the door. And that's the beautiful part about it, man. So I mean, everybody's ecstatic what's going on. And then you talk about the return game. Obviously, we thought D. Williams was here a little too long. But he's shown, man, if you're not performing, you're out the door. I know it kind of shows me that Mike knows exactly what he wants, exactly the kind of player he wants in here. There's no second guessing. We talked about it, and you talked about it with Greg. Like, look, Dodson and Baker weren't. Mike had nothing to do with that. So, and then him and John were in the office, and he's like, look, dude, this is just not working, and we need to get some other guys. I like this rookie Tyrese Knight. He needs to be on the field more and develop. And then the Ernest Jones, man, when was the last time you remember you got the biggest question mark at a position at the beginning of a year, and then it becomes clear as day halfway through the season? I mean, you and I were talking about, man, the Bobby Ayers over. Jordan Brooks, man, should we have kept him? just because of what's happening with the linebackers, you did all this and Brooks is out the door and now you have Jerome Baker. Like, what's he doing? It's like all of a sudden you're not talking about that at all. You potentially are like, this could be our linebacker core for years to come. And I'm just waiting till I hurry up and give that dude a contract, man. Like, sign Ernest now, man. But the thing is, he loves it here. He seems to love it. So, I think they'll get something worked out. I really do. And there's another guy where you're gonna have to give a lot of money to. But, dude, I mean, I'm sorry, man. He just seems like he's worth every penny right now.
Well, and the thing is you gotta the thing with the cap, and everyone always wants to talk about the cap. You got to remember with this year's cap in particular, we are paying 2 players that don't even play here anymore because of dead cap hits, and Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. So when you look at the cap and say, oh, we're not like, there's going to be some money that gets freed up. There's going to be money in restructures. There's going to be guys that aren't going to be on this team. Like, I don't see Tyler Lockett being on this team. Love Tyler. And,
he's gone. He's gone.
I love Tyler. And
the stat sheet yesterday, it was 0 and 0.
Yes.
Seahawk Hall of Famer.
100%. And, but the thing is, like, you look at this defense, and I'm looking at it right now. One, acquisition, we talk about Ernest Jones, and we 100% top 2 in season trade. Leonard Williams could be potentially called one of those as well. Like, Leonard Williams trade was really good last year.
It was,
but Ernest Jones is definitely that top spot. But the thing I'll say is another addition we made this year. And again, it's another thing where we go, okay, so Mike really didn't have the say he wanted to, because the pro personnel staff and John Schneider and the scouts didn't really know what this coaching staff was looking for. Roy Robertson Harris has helped out so much. And even Mike McDonald today said on his show on 710, how much Robertson Harris's role and what he does has actually allowed Leonard Williams more freedom to be in situations that we've seen him make impact plays, because he doesn't have to play those early downs because of what Robertson Harris does. Like, Robertson Harris is going to get a restructured contract and be here. They're not going to let that dude out because of what he brings, especially if you're going to lose Hankins, and Draymond Jones has even, I think, benefited from it, because yes, Draymond may not be on the sack sheet like crazily a whole bunch, but he is creating pressures, and you're seeing him out there, and he's flying around now, but he's going to get a restructure if he wants to stay here. But you look at most of this team, there's a lot of guys that are on a contract for a lot of years. Like,
throw Kobe Bryant, for example. There's another guy where we didn't know, there was guys, and you talked about it, you've been high on Kobe.
Oh, Kobe's my man.
But how many dudes that you even talked to, might have left that guy off their 53?
Oh, 100%. Everyone was.
Because it's like, well, this guy was kind of a corner and he's played a little nickel. And yeah, I think they put him more in safety, but he dealt with injuries and this and that. And with Pete, all of a sudden, and you hear high praise with Mike McDonald, that guy. So there's another dude where it wasn't like he was on the roster, but it took Jenkins to get hurt. But, eventually he probably would have started, at some point, but, obviously fast track with the injury. But you start looking at this defense and those key positions that you had, biggest question marks you had were at linebacker and safety. And now you look at it like, and we talked with Griff and we said, I posed the question, hey, this defense is rolling, this and that. Do you see what holes do you see as far as like maybe, and he's like, I don't know, like, we're pretty solid. Like, yeah, there might be one or two, obviously, there'll be some stuff, but if you and I and Griff talked about that in week 2, we would have been like, well, linebacker and say, and all of a sudden you're like, man, this is a group of guys and young dudes. Tyrese Knight, he's got some development, but rookie, Witherspoon, Reek, Kobe, you just feel, you're just excited about what this defense can be. And and that could be a foundation of a very good team for a long time.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like, you talk about some of these pieces like Derek Hall, Mafe, like Chenna, like, even though he was back yesterday and they were easing him back into it, it wasn't like years past where Chenna's gone down and
you're done. Dude, that was last season.
Last year, we're done.
It was
like, okay, great. Like, Daryl Taylor can't hold up on his end. Mafe is going to struggle. Like, it was like, okay, our pass rush is now essentially just gone because Chenna. Hall's now all of a sudden, and that was another guy for me, Derek Hall. Like everybody was so low on him after his rookie year, and it was like, I think it has more to do with the scheme and what they're asking to do. Lo and behold, that dude is now a monster out there. He has speed off the edge, power, all those things. Like, I kid you not, even though he didn't register a sack yesterday,
he was
he was game wrecking the Cardinals tackle Jackson or Paris Jackson out there, like just completely causing him issues the whole game, holding here, holding there, like resetting that offense constantly for the Cardinals.
Well, and year 1 to year 2 is another thing too. People
100% it is.
Like he's a rookie, so
Tyrese Knight has been the one I think that I've been most impressed with because of how much he has improved with Ernest Jones. Like those two are a tandem. It's not like, we talk about like, oh, we have one stellar linebacker and then kind of some other pieces around. Like, you think about when Bobby and KJ were no longer together, like Brooks was okay, but I never really looked at Brooks and Bobby and were like, they're a tandem. Like it was like Bobby and then Jordan.
Bobby was on his way out, right?
Well, exactly. You didn't have the same tandem. But you look at Knight and Jones and the way they communicate, and Knight's play has been elevated. Like he started earlier in the year with Dotson there when Baker was out, and it was like, okay, like, yeah, he looks like a rookie. Like he looks like he does not make some of those same mistakes. Like he did so well yesterday filling the run gaps. Like there's one play where the right tackle comes across and he's got a cross block and they're running basically like an inside power by the Cardinals, and Knight ducks under the right tackle and then shoves the guard into the hole and closes it on Connor. And I'm like, that's not a play you're making week 2, and that's not a play most rookies are making in general as a linebacker. So, the Ernest Jones impact definitely has been felt throughout that team, and they're definitely going to get something worked out. That dude is not leaving Seattle. He's going to be here for years to come.
You can't let him walk out that door, man.
That was, and overall, this defense is playing. Like I said, we have there in the title, they are playing at a top 5 level at the right time of the year. Like this is an ascending defense. It's getting better. And talking to Greg Bell, they're at like 80 to 85% of the playbook. They're not even in the full playbook yet because they had to reset in October. So,
well, and you see it opening up. You saw it like it's obvious when it's opened up. Like even last week against the Jets with the big Leonard Williams play. We talked about that. You wouldn't have seen that even a few weeks ago. And you're throwing looks at guys that they're almost confused. Like you're confusing Aaron Rodgers. So not only you got this talent pool, but man, you're super confident in the direction of Mike McDonald now. I know, and there's a lot of questions about, is this guy is he head coach material? And people are quick to talk about it. And they have a right to be. You're saying, okay, you're the next guy up. You've done a lot of good things as a coordinator. But right now, man, and we talked about it. What is the biggest game was coming out of that bye going into Santa Clara, because that was a big thing. You lose that, season would have been tough. And how would players respond? Man, coming out of there, they're clicking, and it just seems like they're not looking back. And we'll get into the other games. They got a couple tough games coming up, man. But I think you and I talked about it when we had Griff on a few days ago, and I said, look, you got a defense like this, and they're clicking, and when you're clicking, you're just gaining confidence. You feel like no one's even going to score anything on you. That just lets fans know too that, hey, man, we can be in every game. I don't care who. Like right now, I feel like whoever comes in that building, or if we go on the road, I don't care who it is, I feel like we're going to compete. Might not win, but I really feel like, you know what I mean? This is just every game you're going to be in, unless you just have one of those, nothing goes right games. But that's what I'm feeling like with this defense, man. It's an awesome feeling.
It is. And, if you look at this, and if I said to you at the beginning of the year, hey, we're going to have a rookie staff outside of Leslie Frazier. We're going to have a rookie head coach, and we're going to have a 5-1 road record where our only road loss is going to be a game where we played Detroit early in the year and we're missing half of our starting defense. And oh, by the way, we're going to go into Santa Clara and beat the 49ers with a rookie head coach. I don't think a lot of people would have believed it. They would have been like, oh yeah, no, like I think we're going to have a better home record than away. Like that is so impressive. We've been able to put up a 5-1 road record, and our 2 next road games are in 2 weeks. We're going to take on the Bears, or 3 weeks, I guess, take on the Bears, take on the Rams. But I will say this, our next 2 home games are, especially this one on Sunday night coming up, is huge.
How much of a home game is going to,
Well, you know what? I'll give credit where credit's due right now. And Brian Nimhauser from Hawk Blogger, he started a really cool thing today on X where he basically put out a post saying if people aren't able to go to the game for whatever reason and you're selling your Seahawk tickets, he built 2 forums for people that are selling and buying tickets to sell to Seahawk fans. So it's not you selling this off to Green Bay fans and other fans, like to keep a home field advantage. And I'll give him credit for that because that's a brilliant idea, because way too often we see people go, cool, I'm going to give my ticket to the highest bidder, and it ends up being a Green Bay fan or a Niners fan or whoever. Sell to Seahawk fans. If you're selling your tickets, please, like, we need that home field advantage to be there. This team is now actually, something we all want to go see. Like, I'm going to the Vikings game in 2 weeks. I can't wait. And I'm going with friends of mine that are family friends that are diehard Viking fans. So we bought a bunch of tickets together, but I cannot stress enough. We need, when people are selling their tickets, to sell to Seahawk fans, please. And
you know what? And
I'm
on board with that. The only thing is, like, it's tough, man. It is tough because these tickets, and it's hard to blame the fans. Me and you and I. Look, we could talk about this for a long time. We talked about this for a couple hours, but my biggest thing is it falls on. It's just you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to resell these tickets at the highest bidder. So there's bigger issues than just putting your tickets to a certain price. It's tough, man. I can't blame people either. That's the thing. There's a lot of cheesehead fans, man. They travel huge. I mean, we know fans of Green Bay, probably right next door. So listen, I appreciate what he's doing. There's no question about it. There's going to be a lot of Green Bay fans. But yeah, I agree. If you can sell them to Hawks fans, if you know a Hawks fan that's willing to give you a lot of cash for this game, sell it to them. I just can't blame someone who's going to take, $300 more a ticket. I mean, that's all I'm saying. I can't blame anybody. I'd love it if we had. That being said, just to your point earlier about the road record, I'm ecstatic about it. But it's the way we're playing that I'm more ecstatic about. If we were 2-3 because, things just didn't go our way, bounce here, bounce there. And that's what you and I talked about, man. We said, we weren't throwing out win totals for a long time. And we said, because look, I go back to, we were 9-8 last year, right? And that record was deceiving. And ownership saw through it and said, and you and I said that Pittsburgh game was it. We still finished 9-8, but that was some bad football, and we might win 9 this year. I think we'll win. It looks like we'll probably get to 10. But what I'm saying is that this team looks so much better. Look, if we finish 9, say we finish 9-8, right? The way we played, totally different season, totally different looking team, records the same. So that's, and I know you agree with me, but it's just the way they're playing, man, really gets you excited. And you and me said, we're setting this up for 2025, 2026. And now you and I can sit here and say that. We can say this thing is setting up. And even like you talk about the O-line, like there's some pieces here you're getting excited about. You talk about LeMay and the what he's bringing, his mentality to that line. That's what you want to see. That's what you need. So, yeah, man, I'm fired up.
Yeah, and it's, it'll be interesting going forward, but like in the title here, the Hawks played a complete game. It was the first time this year we've seen this team play a complete game together where our special teams was good. Jason Myers was hitting his kicks. Even Dixon with his back spasms, like, he kind of had to be a game time decision. Punted the ball really well. We covered, our new returner didn't fumble, even though he almost did at the beginning, but luckily he was down by contact and they actually punched it out.
They punch it when he's
down.
But it got you scared.
He secured the punts. And then if he did get a chance, he returned it and he made something out of it. Like, it was actually refreshing to see that.
Well, no career fumbles either, right? Yeah, that was the stat you like to see coming in. So
100%. And, it's going to be interesting to see because this O-line's finally going to build some continuity. I'm not saying the O-line's fixed, but what I will retract back, and, I said it last show with Griff, and I'll retract it back after seeing this game to an extent, is I'm seeing Ryan Grubb And I was very harsh on Ryan Grubb, and I shouldn't have been actually in hindsight, because as a coach myself, I know how difficult that can be. And I've coached at multiple levels. Just for anybody that's asking out there, I have coached at the university level and the collegiate level. So I do know how to do that. But to be as harsh as I was on Grubb wasn't fair of me. And I really like what he's doing now. The fact that you can see he's starting to get more comfortable in this NFL world with the differences that there are. And there are a bunch from this collegiate game to the NFL game. But, you know, it was refreshing to see him set things up in the run game, set things up off of that into the pass game. And you could see the coaching that took place there with him and Huff. And, you know, they had LeMay on the bench for all season. They bring him out finally when they kind of have to. And the dude's a player. Like, he's good. So it was refreshing to see him play a complete game. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this team goes down the stretch. I'm really excited to see them play Green Bay on Sunday night, because I think people initially, I think, would have circled this game and been like, okay, this is going to be a win for Green Bay, you know, so on and so forth. And they looked at the initial schedule. But I look at it and I think we match up well. I'm more terrified actually of us in the Vikings game, because the Vikings do pose, I think, some problems for us. And Darnold is playing out of his freaking mind right now. Like, holy. But I'm very interested to see how this game goes on Sunday night. And if the Seahawks win this, though, and this is the other caveat with this, is if we win, we now hold the tiebreaker over the Packers for a wild card spot, if, for whatever reason, if somehow it came down to that. So that's another big thing about this game on, you know, on Sunday night. But with that being said, let's go into this topic, which has been driving me nuts. And I'm sure there's people in our comments that feel the same way. I know you don't pay attention to PFF as closely as I do, Ryan, but man, their grading system, like, I love PFF for like their premium stats and their ability to give you certain kind of looks at things. Like, if I want to pull up, you know, Geno's passer rating from this game and his passing direction, I can go and look at when he was kept clean, what his stats were, when he was under pressure, when he was blitzed, when he was not. That is fantastic. I love that. But my God, I look at the run blocking. You cannot tell me when our running game goes for 170 plus yards and our quarterback isn't sacked and our quarterback has an 80% completion percentage, but, you know, it's just, it drives me nuts that I see LeMay in there with a run blocking grade of like 50. And Abe Lucas has a 40. Abe Lucas, basically, if you play with a 40, it's like you didn't play with any arms. You know, it to me is just, it's so frustrating, because you can see good play on the field and you can see bad play on the field. And there's like Ernest Jones. He's not a 50 overall. Like, right now I'm looking at his defensive grade stats from this game. Ernest Jones was our lowest graded defensive player. Like, it doesn't make sense. He had a 51. Like, Chenna Nwosu, who did not play nearly the amount of snaps, has a higher grade percentage. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe Chenna had some more impact. But Ernest Jones, interception. He led the team in solo tackles. Like, I want to know from PFF, and this is the big thing for me on it, where is the algorithm for your grades? Because the grades come up about 30 to 40 minutes after a game. Is it like, cool, you just plug in what the stats were and it spits out a grade for you? Like, the stats don't always tell the story necessarily. And I know I'm one that's had moments where I've been very stat heavy and said that points to a, you know, conclusion. Sometimes it doesn't. Like, you know, you look at Kenny Mack. Kenny Mack didn't have a bunch of run or a bunch of, you know, opportunities, but he maximized his opportunities. But if you looked at his stat line, you go, oh, he's had like, you know, and I'm saying here because I don't know exactly Kenny Mack's stat line, but he's got 6 carries for 30 yards. You may look at that and be like, oh, that's really good. But you may look at it and be like, okay, like it was one run of 20 and then the rest he got 10. But somehow he grades super high. And then you look at another guy that has way more consistency in his run game and he grades lower. It doesn't make sense. And it drives me nuts because I sit there at games some points. And like I was watching Rob Staten and Jeff Simmons show today. And I feel the same way Rob does, where you're sitting there going, I wonder what his PFF grade is going to be. And then you go and look and you're completely disappointed or you're utterly shocked. And I'm like, it's frustrating. Like, I'm going to stop looking at their grades because they don't match and just stick to the actual stats. But man, like, I know you don't look at it, but it's just something I need to get off my chest because PFF grades are driving me nuts.
You know, you know why I don't look at those grades, because I don't, there's no reason to. I mean, look, I'm a watch the game on the field kind of guy. And sure, you're going to see stats and Geno's passing yards, and you know, there's certain stats, yeah, that you want to see, pressure percentage, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, man, if you're watching the game with your own two eyes, I mean, the Ernest Jones example. Look, I mean, there's so many things that he does on the field that's not going to show up in the stats. See, you brought up Tyrese Knight. You know, that's a unit there. There's not a statistic for that. And you know, all the guy did was, you know, let's see, intercept the ball, you know, be a game changer, give us the ball in a good field position, then we go take a shot and score a touchdown. I mean, that's all I need to see. And yeah, I mean, the stats you brought up, they don't make sense. You got to see what's on the field and what's happening. I bet if you ask the players what they think of PFF, they wouldn't care. You know, they don't care. They care about what's going on the field, wins and losses, all that stuff. You know, guys aren't getting paid off PFF stats. So I mean, throw them out the window. Yeah, save yourself some you know, stress by you know, just not looking at them anymore, man.
Like PFF, it's data composition of like what it pulls up for like the actual stats. Like I was saying about what Geno does, how he's kept, that is phenomenal data. And that really helps you paint a picture. But the problem is, and I think one of our viewers in here actually put it in, which is great. And I'll put it up. He goes, teams use PFF for the tracking data, but PFF markets their shit grades. He's 100% right. And this is OG3. He's 100% right. Like when you look at PFF, it's all about grades this, grades that. You need to unlock this to see your player grades. But like the premium stat portion where I can, like I said, pull up like what, you know, Geno off of his play action was, you know, drop back was 20% of the offense on Sunday. Was that the other part was no play action?
That's okay. I mean, that's good.
Great data because I can then look at it and go, hey,
the data's good, but the grades, I mean,
are garbage. Because like I look at this and I'm reading it like it. So get this, Geno, just for a situation, the grade part of this. So Geno he had 6 dropbacks from play action, so 20% of his dropbacks. He was 6 of 5 for 45 yards, no interceptions, no touchdowns, 7 yards per attempt, and completed, basically only missed one ball, so 83%. His grade was 55.9.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
the guy was good. Like, he missed one pass. Like, how does that drop you if you're scoring out of 100? How is that half?
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense at all.
It doesn't make any sense to me. But then, like, I look at him and I go, he's on a screen. So there were 4 screens in the game, and he's 4 for 4 for 100 for 38 yards, and he's a 65. So 1 incompletion is 10 points. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, his no play action, he was 24 of 19 for 188 yards and a touchdown, and he was an 82. Like, huh? The math doesn't make sense when I'm looking at what we're talking about on the field to what the stats are saying to then how you grade that. Like, there's no continuity there. It doesn't make sense. And it's just, again, I've always taken PFF with a grain of salt, but I'm really taking it with like a cup of salt now when it comes to grades, man. Like, I'm just going to focus on the stats. If I have to, what I might start doing for our show alone, I might start coming out with my own grades based off of the stats and say, hey, here's actual grades.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a little more accurate. Yeah, I hear you, man. And you know, but like I said, I've never been that big analytical stack. I mean, I get like you mentioned, there's certain things that, yes, they're very useful. The grade portion about it, man, like, yeah, just yeah, when it stops making sense, I mean, just kind of like you said, take it with a grain of salt. So take the good out of it and the rest just leave it. But man, let's get into some Q&As here, dude. I don't know if you got a few.
Fire away. You go with the first one here.
All right, let's jump into this one, man. We talked about the run game here. Charbonnet should start. K9 be the Lightning. I just like Detroit. I know there's been some talk. Look, here's the thing too. what have you done for me lately, right? Like, people have short memories. Sharps had a hell of a game, dude, like, hell of a game. But, right now, I don't think I'm not saying don't do it, but man, he he's been disappointing for most of the year. He had a great game. You got to kind of see that continue. Look, I'm all for Kenny Walker sitting another week to make sure he gets fully healthy, because we've seen him before. I mean, he's been on the shelf. Let him get right. You were fine rolling Charbonnet out to start, and Kenny Mack coming and being that lightning right now. I think that's what you do. But I mean, look, if Walker's healthy, they're going to start him. I don't hate the idea, to be honest. I don't hate the idea. I actually said a couple shows back, if people watch it, I said and I've said this, I've been consistent, but I said I like Ken Walker. I said I don't love Ken Walker. Like, if we go talk to me 20 years later and we go down, okay, who's your top 3 Seattle running backs? Like, he might not be on that list. I talked about a guy like Chris Carson that I loved here in Seattle, because he was just that physical runner that didn't go down on the first hit. And Sharps did bring that. So I think you and I talked about it with Walker. It's like, he seemed to be reverting back to that rookie year style a little bit, where he's trying to hit the home runs, bouncing, not going in the right direction. And yeah, I think what got people excited from yesterday was Sharps just hitting it and going downhill. Walker's got it. And look, maybe that's just not who he is. You might always revert to some of that pinball bounce action. That just might be ingrained in him, and something that he just might not ever change.
I think one thing for Charbonnet, when he was at Michigan, or sorry, not Charbonnet, Ken Walker, when he was at Michigan State,
right,
they ran a lot of zone, and they had good linemen to do it. That was a big thing. Like, a lot of what he did there was zone running, wide zone, inside zone, because he likes to hit it. He likes to go. He's got one full speed, and he just hits it. But he doesn't. Sometimes I wonder with him if he has the patience.
Yeah.
That was one thing. Like, I'm watching, just even now, the jet sweep play we talked about earlier with Charbonnet. AJ Barner does a phenomenal job kicking out the outside guy, and then you can see this lane develop. And Charbonnet's so patient, he lets Barner push him out and cuts in off of Barner's ass. Ken Walker might not be that patient sometimes. It might just hit it and try and beat the guy to the outside. And again, I like what Jason's saying about the, lightning thunder. And that's very, very similar to what, Pete Carroll really envisioned with, Ken Walker and, Penny, even though Penny can never stay healthy. And it was what he had at USC with Reggie Bush and Lendell White, right? Lightning and thunder. But there's parts of me where I wonder if this team's a better gap power team. Now, I'm not saying Ken Walker can't do it, but if they're a better gap power run team, then yeah, maybe Charbonnet needs to be your lead on first and second down, or in certain situations, and then you bring K9 in off the field, but onto the field, I should say. But the other aspect is K9 in the second half of his rookie year figured it out to run straight ahead, and that's where he took off, and he actually had a phenomenal breakout the second half of that year. So it's up for debate. I'm worried though, because when Mike McDonald talked about it today, apparently it's not the ankle anymore, it's the calf, and they're doing more tests or something, I think he said, and they're going to know more in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah,
and calves for me with running backs,
scary.
It's scary because it always makes you think, is it the Achilles that's going to go?
Big time.
And, if that means we have to go with Charbonnet for the next, and I'm okay with Sharps for the remainder of the season. If it means, hey, cool, like, he's got to sit 3-4 weeks, like that's what we got to do with the K9 to keep him right, then okay, then that's fine. I'm good with going with Kenny Mack, Charbonnet. Even George Halani got out there a little bit on Sunday, and he had a really good preseason. So
I like Kenny Mack though, dude. I like Kenny Mack. The one thing that the good news when you heard, if you take any good news about Walker not playing, was that you knew you were going to get to see Kenny Mack, and he impressed. He really did. I just think I want to see more of him. Even when Walker's in, how do we use him? How do we get him on the field?
So here's the thing, though, and this is what it leads to what Greg Bell said. So I'm looking just right now at the passing, blocking stats for the Seahawks in this game. Who's not listed is Kenny Mack. Charbonnet's on there. Kenny Mack is not. And that tells me exactly what Greg was telling us, that this coaching staff doesn't yet trust Kenny Mack in pass pro situations. So I think that's what you're going to see is Kenny Mack will get used on first and second down, but if it's a strict third down situation where they're probably going to have to
I
throw,
agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. I think you
and
and I
that's where
talked
you're
about
seeing that side of things. But
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. But I got this one here from Michael Fawcett. Great win, fun to watch. I'm a little worried not hearing Byron Murphy's name called a lot. Still at this point, am I wrong about his play? So, Michael, I'm gonna say you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry as much as you think. And I know, and I get it, because I kind of brought this up a few shows ago too, because I was like, oh, this is kind of odd. Like, you're not hearing the impact from Byron Murphy that you thought. So Byron Murphy in this last game, for example, and it probably didn't show, he had 4 hurries on the quarterback, which is, a pretty good stat. He led the team actually in that aspect out of that D front. And his win rate is, and I'll just pull it up for D line. So the only guy on the D line that had the only player that had a better win rate and pressure this game was Ernest Jones, which came off a blitz. Byron Murphy was second with 19% win rate. Derek Hall was 18. And we talked earlier about how Derek Hall was wrecking that game.
Yeah.
Byron Murphy was creating pressure through the entirety of it. So he is definitely being used in a different way than I think a lot of us were expecting. He's having to play a lot more in the one tech spot because of the fact, and we talked about this with Griff in our last show, because they don't truly have a good nose tackle in there. Like Jonathan Higgins, I don't think has panned out the way they were hoping. Jaron Reed's a bit too old to constantly be in that one tech spot. But what you're going to see, I think, next year is Byron Murphy, after his rookie year, will put on, some different build to himself, get himself probably in a bit better shape for that spot, and they'll probably use him a little bit more in different spots. He is a phenomenal 3-tech.
Yeah.
And if you have the other pieces around him, you can put him in 1-tech spots for pass rush, and he's going to cause problems for a center and a guard combo. But I think he's playing a little bit too much in those spots right now, which is why you're not maybe hearing his name, is because he's stuck in certain situations based on how he's got to play in the scheme this year because of the pieces around him. So, I think, don't be too worried about Byron Murphy. He's a rookie. I think he's going to get better, and you're going to see that, eventually get better as you go.
Yeah, here's another one. And this is, we've talked about it with Haynes. I don't think Haynes gets left guard either. I think you have to get a premier guy at left guard and center. Keep Haynes at depth. Our backup O-line should be Stone, Haynes, Olu, Bradford, and Jarrell. The only thing I'll say, I agree. I think, for me, I think Haynes still has a lot of development. I don't know what you think, but I think if we really target, at least one veteran guard, I still think that has to be on the table, where you get a good veteran guard. And, you talk about, hey, maybe LeMay is the other guard. But I still think, at this point, look, the way Haynes has dropped down the depth chart, and I don't think you just slide him in there unless he just somehow just transforms the offseason. And you know what? I think center, man, Olu, let him develop a little more. He's only a few starts in. If he can build this chemistry with what they got right now, look, they had a good game. And what you said, by no means is this thing fixed, but you're trending in the right direction as well. So I don't think it's quick to just say, okay, well, now we need another center. I think it's a lot to ask when you're, I think if you think you have the pieces with Abe and Cross as your bookends, and if you can say, look, our goal is to target a veteran good guard. Yeah, I just think it's a lot to ask. Be like, now we need a center and a guard and another. I think I'd be happy in the offseason if they got a veteran, not Pro Bowl guard, but just below it, like I think we talked about with Griff. I'd be extremely happy with that. Stone, I could see him not on the team, but
it'll be interesting because what you're gonna have to look at, and I really actually like this question. And statement from Mofo is that, Haynes, I think, will have to move to the left side because I don't.
Well, I agree with that. I
think you need to put a veteran to start there and let Haynes still learn. Because I think Haynes, personally, I think Haynes needs to change his body a little bit, the way it's, built currently. And I think that's going to be an NFL offseason for him. Because he's kind of weirdly, and we talked about it with Griff, but he is almost built like a center in a weird way, but he's not completely. It's just, he's got an odd body. It's weird to
He
talk
does.
about
But
bodies.
is that what you think though? Like go get that
I
below
think you
Pro
need to
Bowl
get that
guard.
veteran Pro Bowl level, all second team,
Yeah,
all
exact
first team.
second tier. Yeah.
Again, but the thing is too, and this is going to be the thing is, what does that price cost? Okay, take a look
Okay.
at that, see what it is. This is a very deep and talented interior O-line class, like very deep and talented, where you could get, another guy if you needed to, or you need two guys, you can go get them. But I still think they need that
Veteran presence.
veteran guard to
Yeah.
be in there to start, because it'll help calm things down. And Charles Cross has kind of hit a bit of a rough patch, and I think it's mainly because I think teams now have to rush from both sides. They don't just stack their star rusher on the our right side of our line because Stone Forsythe or Mike Drell's out there.
Exactly.
But like you look at Olu's stats in this last game, like he got a 57 grade, and I put bunny ears with that, but he his pass block was actually better than it's been most games. It was a 67, but he gave up one hurry and he gave up one pressure. Like, again, he's still learning. Like, he's still getting accustomed to it, but you can see that he's getting better in his assignments and getting the line set properly. Like, the run game's gone in the right direction. We got to see consistency, and that's the key thing. I've seen that a couple times listed by different people. Consistency, and that's going to be the key thing. Can they consistently do this? I think if they can, we're looking at a pretty good, situation. So actually bringing that up, I'm going to bring up, I'm going to bring up Ian's here, and then we'll go to Peter's.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay.
Ian goes, complimentary football from all sides of the ball, especially the offense. I think the O-line is coming together, but we need to see consistency. That's going to be the key. Green Bay's got a good defensive front seven. Like, they really do. And it's going to be a challenge for us to see what that kind of, looks like. So, I think consistency is the key term for sure.
Yeah, just jumping back into this one. I know we're talking about the running game a lot, but yeah, I mean, Peter brings up a point, man. You get it's a physical position. I don't know if he's losing explosion. I mean, I think another comment in there was about getting a little too happy feet with this O-line, and maybe Ken was also trying to do a little too much. But I think teams like with backs, man, it's one of those things where you're taking it year by year. You're not the days of like, man, we have to lock this guy up and he's our long-term guy. We've seen that in the past too much. So I really think they're seeing what they got. How's he going to come back next year? I mean, they don't need to. I mean, maybe they extend him later, but what do you think, man? I don't think he's there yet. It's really been tough to grade it to with the O-line and the lack of consistency getting in a rhythm for Ken. So really for me to sit back and kind of, is he losing explosion? That's kind of hard to say just because for me, it's just been such a lack of run game, whether it's play calling, O-line, and rhythm.
I think for me with K9, there's a couple things, and one of them does play into that on. He's taken a lot of early hits before he's gotten up to speed, which I think plays into these injuries we're talking about, because the injury factor does scare me a little bit with K9. Like, he's getting injured at a frequent rate. And, Chris Carson kind of went through a similar thing. Rashad Penny went through his injuries, but they were a lot of soft tissue things. Hamstring, calf, quad, ribs, whatever it was. And a lot of it was because of how quickly these guys were getting hit because of how bad the O-line's been. For a running back to get up to speed and then hit a linebacker or a DB, it's a lot less impactful, I would say, on your body in the same regard. So it'd be nice to see K9 run behind a proper line. But I think there's, it warrants the question, if his contract does come up at the end of next season, what they're going to do, right? Because he's been here for 3 years. He's going to be, going into his fourth, and he doesn't have an option year. It'll be a tough conversation. And if for some reason he's out for a significant period of time right now and Charbonnet takes off and has, another set of good games in between there, I think that conversation gets a little bit more interesting going forward, because you've got Charbonnet for 2 more years instead of just the one. So it'll be all interesting, but by no means do I mean we need to get rid of K9.
No, I don't think we're saying that. It's just more of like I think it's like you said, it's a year by year thing. Like you said, if he's on the shelf, say even the rest of the year, and because you're not, and the history of running backs, right? So you're not. There's a reason why the market hasn't been good for them. because they get hurt, and we've had our own history recently of guys, and we've had some good runners and just can't stay healthy. So it's hard to pay those guys, man, when you got other guys to pay. And like you said, now you got, if Sharbs picks it up and continues to be consistent, that's just, sometimes it's a short career at that position for the average running back.
So here we got Mookie Alexander from Field Goals jumping in. Mookie, hey, how's it going, man?
What's up, Mookie?
To talk to the Byron Murphy point, Byron Murphy looks like he's a really quality run defender primarily, and the interior pass rush will come with experience. 100%. And this is what I was saying earlier. Like, his pass rush win rates will grow as he gets more comfortable, learns different moves, different techniques, how to play on the inside there. And again, it's a different game than the NFL game and what, teams were trying to do to him in college compared to what they're trying to do to him now in the NFL. But he's going to learn things from Leonard Williams, Robertson Harris. He's going to learn different things from different guys, Jaron Reed. He's going to get better. But Mookie comes actually up with another interesting one here, and he comes up with Stone does not need to be on the team next year. I'd rather just draft another reverse tackle. It's a fair point. And when Stone got brought up in that previous one, that was what I was thinking is I haven't seen enough from Stone to warrant him being a swing tackle. Like Mike Jarrell might be your swing tackle realistically.
Well, I think now that you've seen some young guys develop, I think you're safe to be like, no, we don't need him. I think he was such an emergency guy where you're like, you need to be on this roster. But like you said, Jarrell, these young guys you're seeing come up, and man, you know what? Give credit to Stone. He did his best, right? But it's just,
he really did.
He's just, I just don't want to see Stone there anymore, man. So
yeah, he's had a rough go of things. That's kind of an issue. Danny here. Hi, Danny. How's it going, man? Thanks for jumping in the chat. Danny. OG3. I've been quietly disappointed with Cross this year. So this is an interesting topic.
Yeah, dude, it is, man.
Because I look at Charles Cross and Amy brings up actually an interesting point here. She thinks Cross might be dealing with an injury. It's very possible. They haven't disclosed it, which I think by league rules, if he is injured, they do have to disclose it.
Right.
So, it's an interesting conversation piece here because I look at Cross and his first game, I think, was phenomenal against the Broncos. Like, he did a great job in that game.
Yeah.
But as I look at,
that was, sorry to cut you off. That was that, what was it? Seattle 7 when the show when they were just talking about top 5 guys you gotta extend right now. Charles Cross.
Yes.
Because he had a great game.
He did.
He was like, okay,
did.
He is the guy.
But it's really weird because I look at Charles Cross's, stats here. So if we go by game, he gave up for that first, here, let me get this right. Sorry. So he gives up no sacks the first 2 weeks, nothing, no hits, no hurries, no pressures. Then against Miami, he gives up 1 sack. Then against Detroit, he gave up 1 hit, 9 hurries, and 10 pressures in total were allowed. So that's your additions of hits and hurries all added into one number. So 10 in total. Then we get in Miami, he had 2 hurries. Then we get 3 hurries versus the Giants. And then we get, 2 hurries and a hit against the Niners the first time. And then 2 again hurries and 1 hit against Atlanta. Buffalo goes down to 1 hurry. Like, it's progressively he's averaging a hit or a hurry a game. And then you come down to, like the last game that we played against the Jets, the worst game he's had all year, in my opinion, the worst game besides the Detroit game, which he was going up against at the time, Aiden Hutchinson, and Aiden Hutchinson is a bona fide superstar. Was the San Francisco win. He gave up a sack. He gave up a hit. He gave up 2 hurries. Like, that's a lot in one game. And it gets me to the point where I kind of look at it and I go like, week 14 versus Arizona, this last game, he gave up 2 hurries again.
But what are your options? I mean, you don't want
I'm not saying you get rid of Cross.
No. But I mean, when his contract comes up, I mean,
if I'm Seattle, he has the 5th-year option.
You take that, sure.
And you pay him on the 5th-year option. You do not extend him unless somehow you get into a cap situation where you have to. I wouldn't go extending him and giving him massive amounts of money yet.
I agree with that 100%. I agree with that. 100%.
I think you got to do the option with him, the 5th-year option. and you pay him what that is. But I don't see a situation where I'm looking at Charles Cross and I'm going, yeah, if I don't pay him this offseason, oh, we're screwed. Like, okay, 5th-year option, then we'll revisit this next offseason. Like, we need to see more consistent play, because the thing that I also notice is once Abe Lucas came back, which was that San Francisco game, he has seen escalation in sacks. He's seen an escalation in hurries. Like, and I think part of that is because he's not getting to see, not teams aren't solely going after the right tackle on our team because Abe Lucas is back and able to hold his own a bit.
No, that's a great point. Real quick, Stone is a nice backup left tackle. No, the answer is no. He was a great emergency guy, and like we said, credit to him for trying his best to step in there. But at this point, you got Jarrell and guys who say if you need an emergency guy, I'd rather have Jarrell in there as your look. Here's the thing, I don't want to get to that point, man. I'm hoping that Abe is good. That's not a quote unquote chronic injury that everyone was talking about. I got to see Abe finish. I don't want to be in these emergency situations because that's not good for anybody. But yeah, no, Stone, I think he won't be back on this roster. So anyways, that's and this line, it's coming together, man. But like you said, good test this Sunday. Really good test this Sunday coming up.
It'll be a good test to see kind of, what this O-line looks like as a whole unit.
I got to pull this one up too, man.
Okay.
Because you and I talked about this. This is an interesting one because we talked about, you and I at the beginning of the show talked about Mike McDonald guys, linebackers, the nastiness, with Ernest and Kobe, one of your guys. I bring up Spoon all the time, one of my guys. You love Spoon. And they all have, common denominators. And that's not only physical play on the field and nastiness. Wolin is it's a tough call, man, because that's the thing. He's a guy that will garner a lot of money, a good chunk. We had Curtis Allen on, and he threw out some numbers there, and a lot of people were like, "Whoa!" And it's like, yeah, that probably is the market for a guy like this. It's gonna be interesting to see what Mike thinks of Wolin and the long-term plan for him here. What are your thoughts?
It's interesting for me.
Right. It is.
Like Wolin hasn't played bad this year.
Agreed.
But if you look at Lenore's contract in San Francisco, that's what you're roughly looking. You're probably gonna have to pay Wolin. If not, maybe a little bit more, depending on what your bonuses and incentives and all that look like. It's an interesting conversation because I think Nehemiah Pritchett has interesting upside potentially as a corner. And you've seen him stick his nose in there. That's the one thing with Wolin, and I think it's Jared here brings it up. So I'm just going to bring it up too. He kind of adds under it. I'm kind of thinking the same thing as Peter. His tackling effort is weird. Yeah, like even in this game, there's a couple
not
points
there.
Well, I won't say it's not there. I saw him attempt to tackle Connor, and he did tackle him, but he doesn't tackle him.
But the way the rest of his defense is swarming and hitting, it's not. It doesn't fit it. And not to say you can't have a guy like that, but is Mike gonna accept that? And that's you kind of got to put yourself in his shoes and say,
here's my caveat to that. I think the way Leslie Frazier talked about him, they talked about him as a shutdown corner. That's what they said in the offseason. Wolin's going to travel. He's going to be our shutdown guy is basically what they said. Generally, your shutdown corner may not be the most physical corner because his job really is to shut down. And so Wolin has kind of embraced that mantra. Like you think of some of the great shutdown corners. Yeah, they've made sticks at different points, but Dion wasn't always known for being some hard-hitting cornerback. Or but that's
I just can't put him in that class.
No, but what I'm saying is the role he is being asked to play in the defense. I'm not saying he's Deion Sanders. No, don't get me wrong.
I know you're not, but I totally agree with that aspect.
And that's where I look at Wolin. I go, he is such a freak talent. Like we talk about DK being the freak talent that he is offensively, and there's limitations to DK's game, but what he does bring you is something that some teams don't have. Woolen does bring you that because teams know they can't throw it deep on Woolen because of his length. Like the one play he made in the end zone versus McBride,
Right.
loved Devin Witherspoon, loved Josh Jobe, loved Trey Brown. Maybe Witherspoon makes that play, but nobody else does, where they get their arm because it's long enough and he's there right on McBride's hit to knock it away. Like those are the things Woolen does well for you and Woolen gives you. And you know, the problem is too, and it's not really a problem, but it's kind of the way that we look at things is we look at Richard Sherman for what he was. Lengthy, skinny, kind of lanky corner, you know, could run, could cover, but Sherman had that attitude where he would come in on the run games and stick. And that's kind of what our envision is.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we got to kind of roll back our expectations there on what that is and go, okay, Woolen possesses some of the skill set Sherman does. He does not possess the attitude that Sherman did, which was, I'm going to come up and lay a boom on you. Because I remember the NFC Championship game at Green Bay, he screws up his elbow because he goes in to hit Eddie Lacy with Earl Thomas flying in, and he buggers up his elbow before the Super Bowl. But what Woolen is asked to do, and that's what I think the key thing will be. If you see Seattle go draft a bunch of corners or another corner this year, higher than where they took Pritchett, maybe that is the conversation they're having is you know, are we going to pay Reek in a year or two? But I think it's an honest question. I just don't know if we haven't looked at Reek maybe the right way. And I think Mookie came in here, which was a really good point. He goes, might cost him some of his speed, but I think Woolen should bulk up a bit. That's maybe a fair point, but then does that take away from what Woolen's good at?
What his main reason why he's on this roster? And I agree with you, man. I'm not saying, look, I want him to be this, you know, Sherman type guy where he just coming down and here's nasty, right? But I'm just saying, I'm looking at it more like Mike McDonald's lens, like and that's kind of the question. Like, is he going to fit? Like, because right now he's on the rookie deal, but you know, when it comes time to say, okay, this guy's going to demand this, what direction? So it's not that I think you and I aren't sitting here being like yes or no. It's just it's an interesting point where
it's a conversational piece.
It's a conversational piece because I think there's certain guys, like we talk about Ernest Jones right now. It's automatic. You sign that guy. Mm-hmm. That guy's the cornerstone of this defense, and I think everyone recognizes the talent, skill set that Reek brings, but it's just more of a conversation of like. If he wasn't here, you know, to me, if you lose Ernest Jones, it's a big deal in this defense. If you lose Reek, I'm not saying that now you're going to, you know, downgrade at that spot, but as the overall defense, can we adapt and have another guy step up in that role? And I'm not saying either way. It's a conversation that will be had. I think it's more of a conversation than when I throw out a name like Ernest Jones, everyone's going to agree. Yeah, you signed that guy yesterday.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm going to bring up one from Peter that's a little back here, but he goes, I know everything's great, but thinking to the future, any positions on defense you think they target in the draft? So there's a couple. I think they're really going to need to go get a true nose tackle that actually fits this scheme properly and not a 32-year-old, 33-year-old Jonathan Hankins, or if he's older than that, he may be. They need to go get somebody that actually can move a bit better but still present that size in that part of the defense. Edge is something people keep talking about. I don't like this edge class really. I don't see a lot of, you know, really strong players. The only one that I'd really get behind up is like Abdul Carter out of Penn State. There's some other guys like, you know, later on, like James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. He's twitchy. But like you look at kind of what Mike McDonald's edges are now with Mafe and Hall. They're not super twitchy. They're guys that can kind of do it all. They can run, they can assist in that. Like it'll be interesting to see. But Peter, to your question, I think interior D line's one. I think edge is another. They may look at corner. We just had this conversation. They may look at corner. They may look at safety, whether it's free agency or the draft, and bring in a new safety, because I don't think Wallace or Jones will be back on this, or Jenkins will be back on this roster next year. No, I think they'll move on from both of them. And so, you know, those are kind of the areas I would say. And if I had to pick an order, I would go interior D-line, then I'd probably go safety actually, and then I'd go edge, and then I'd go corner. It's kind of the needs for Seattle on defense going into this draft. Maybe they get a linebacker, but I don't know because I think they do like Drake Thomas as a backup. I know obviously we like Knight and Jones, like that's not a question.
That's
So
the thing.
maybe
You
they
look
look,
at the starting lineup, and you're like I mean, it's you're dropping for depth, you're dropping for like you said, nose tackle. Yeah, it's a good position to be in right now.
It really is. It truly is, and it's going to be, it's going to be an interesting kind of situation to look at going forward here. But yeah, so I guess that kind of wraps up tonight's show. I think was a good conversation on this team and this really dominant win down in the desert. Ryan, you got a couple last things to say before we kind of close this out?
You know what? Nah, man. I mean, we covered a lot of stuff, man. We're hanging out with you guys. Awesome Q&As. Love taking you guys' questions and comments, and make sure you go down after this show or after we're off the air and just throw your comments down too in the videos. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a great spot to be in. It's been a roller coaster season. A lot of people were like, we're lost, in October, about what is this team about? What direction are we going in? I don't know, man. There's been some switches that have been switched on, and it's feeling good, and we're enjoying the season. So guys, just enjoy the ride. We got some big time games coming up. This Green Bay game, man, sit back, enjoy it. I think we're going to be in for a competitive game. It's going to be a tough game, but this is the games you want. These are the teams you want to play. You want to play these teams when your defense is rolling and feel like, okay, this is a true test. So I'm amped for this game coming up, guys. We're gonna have a pregame at some point. So tune in for that, or preview show. Sorry, call it. And we're not coming on right before the game. And then same thing post game. I think we're aiming to come on right after that game.
We're gonna come on right after the Sunday nighter, guys.
It's gonna be cool because you're gonna hear like boom, like just the emotional live reaction show, which can be kind of cool too. So you're gonna get that from us. And guys, if you haven't already and you've been watching, go down, sub, helps us out a lot.
We're getting close to that 1,000, guys. We really need to try and get up there. So please, if you got other fellow Hawk fans that aren't following the page, please share this with them, get them on board. Also, Ryan, go check out our HawksZone Rundown store. We've got hats, toques out, hoodies. We're dropping a t-shirt this week with kind of a cool alternate logo. And as well, guys, on that pregame show, we're going to do a slight giveaway for the show. So make sure you're tuned in for that, because we're going to do a slight giveaway for that show. So guys, be tuned in for that.
Be tuned in for that, guys. So that's it for us, man. We're pumped up. This team is rolling. Let's go get the Packers. So that's it for us. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.